Welcome back to another explainer. Look, we hear the phrase green building tossed around literally all the time, right? But how do we actually prove a building is sustainable? It's not just about slapping some solar panels on the roof and calling it a day. There is actually a super rigorous, fascinating science behind it all. To wrap our heads around this, let's start with a legendary piece of advice from management guru Peter Drucker. What gets measured gets managed. Because let's be real, when it comes to minimizing our environmental impact, good intentions just aren't enough without solid data backing them up. If we can't objectively measure a building's efficiency, well, we have absolutely no way to improve it or verify it. So that brings us to the million-dollar question. We all know modern buildings need to be sustainable to help protect our resources, but how exactly do we measure a green building? Like, how do we accurately certify that a massive structure is actually performing the way it was designed to? Okay, first things first. A true green building isn't just defined by its looks or, having a bunch of leafy plants in the lobby. It's about minimizing resource use and environmental impact throughout its entire life cycle. And the kicker? It has to do all of this without freezing you out of your office or leaving you in the dark. It's this incredibly delicate balance of slashing energy, water, and material use while actually maintaining or even boosting occupant comfort and productivity. To understand how we track all this efficiency, we have to look at the three pioneer systems that really shaped the global industry over the last few decades. In 1990, the Building Research Establishment in the UK launched BREEAM. Then, in 1998, the US Green Building Council introduced LEED. Fast forward to 2017, and the International Finance Corporation, part of the World Bank Group, brought EDGE to the table, specifically to tackle emerging markets. Now, just look at the sheer complexity of those first two dominant systems, BREEAM and LEED. BREEAM has a whopping 10 categories with 76 individual criteria, and 27 of those are strictly mandatory. LEED isn't much simpler, sitting at 6 categories, 43 criteria, and 28 mandatories. Navigating this whole shebang requires developers and architects to basically become scholars in environmental regulation just to keep up. While they are both incredibly thorough, they take totally different mathematical approaches to scoring. BREEAM calculates a percentage score derived from weighted categories. LEED, on the other hand, relies on a really straightforward point system. You just tally up the absolute points awarded for meeting criteria to hit your certified, silver, gold, or platinum status. To make this a bit more tangible, let's look at Ridge Hospital in Accra, Ghana. Back in 2016, they nailed LEED Silver status by earning exactly 53 points. You can see how those points were rigorously fought for across highly specific categories, things like sustainable sites, water efficiency, and indoor environmental quality. It's a massive achievement for sure, but it takes incredibly meticulous planning. But here is the massive problem. Because LEED and BREEAM are so demanding, heavily detailed, and, frankly, built for top-tier, high-income clients, more than 80% of the mass market is left entirely underserved. Think about that. The vast majority of global construction simply doesn't have the time, the budget, or the specialized expertise to chase down these highly complex certifications. So, if we want to truly transform the global building sector, especially in rapidly growing emerging economies, we desperately need a framework that is accessible, quick, and affordable for everyone else. Market transformation literally cannot happen if only the top 20% of elite projects get to play the game. And that exact bottleneck led to a pretty elegant solution introduced in 2017, the EDGE system. It stands for Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies, and it was specifically created by the International Finance Corporation and the World Bank Group to target emerging markets and finally make green building attainable for the masses. What's brilliant about EDGE is that it completely strips away those complex, weighted point systems of the past. Instead, it focuses on one incredibly clear goal, the 20% baseline. To get EDGE certified, a building simply requires a minimum 20% savings across 3 independent pillars. We're talking 20% energy savings, 20% water reduction, and 20% less embodied energy in materials. Boom, that's it. It is brilliantly straightforward. This completely flips the philosophy from global compliance to local reality. Instead of chasing arbitrary points on a global scale, EDGE developers are actively modeling relative resource savings directly against a localized baseline. They're using real data tailored specifically to their city's unique climate and energy grid. The whole certification process walks you through it incredibly smoothly. Step 1, you just model your design in their free software. Step 2, once verified, you get a preliminary certificate, which is a total game changer because it instantly unlocks green financing before you even break ground. Then, step 3, you track your evidence through construction, and step 4 is a simple post-construction audit for the final certificate. No lingering operational certificates needed years down the line. Because the documentation burden is so low, choosing Edge just makes incredible business sense. The software actually has a built-in financial calculator proving exactly how fast your green upgrades will pay for themselves in utility savings. Combine that with cheaper certification fees, instant impact reports, and the prestige of the World Bank brand for unlocking green finance. Suddenly, going green isn't just a nice environmental choice. It's hands down the smartest financial one. And we can see the reality of this locally in Ghana at the CalBank head office tower. They didn't just hit those 20% minimums, they totally crushed them, achieving an impressive 36% savings in energy, 56% in water, and 32% in materials. It beautifully demonstrates just how practical and effective the Edge system is when actually put into practice on a major commercial building. So here's what it all comes down to. On one hand, you've got the globally recognized prestige and extreme thoroughness of LEED. On the other, the localized, highly accessible, mass-market appeal of Edge. If you were breaking ground on a brand new housing estate in Accra tomorrow, which system would you trust? Which one really holds the key to the future of our urban development? Think about it. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning how we build our world.